Men want to be with women that look good in general. Women get inspired by someone looking good in the body. It's not about even looking good, it's about that twinkle in the eye when you talk to someone and they really listen. Asking the question, the person starts to answer the question, and then we interrupt them and we steal their story and we tell ours. We're asking the question so we can reply to the same question. But I think yogis, if they're really embodied, they'll listen, don't interfere. And I think that's why men in my studio feel seen. They still feel acknowledged.
Strategies in business for a world in flux. In this next season, I am predominantly focusing on the women in my community, particularly the ecological community, but there are other sectors, and how they have navigated their way in life, some up and down and others in a remarkably direct way, and how that maybe differs from the way our male counterparts have operated in business. I hope you enjoy these strategies and their journeys throughout life. Welcome. Hello, Masha. Today we are interviewing the wonderful Masha, who I'm not going to say her last name. I have a go at saying Gordilova. Is that
Well
correct?
done.
It is. Oh, so now Masha may seem a little bit outside my norm, but in fact she fits absolutely the pocket of a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to touch on of business and women in business, operating a little bit differently perhaps in terms of still not just running a business to have a living and all the rest, but following their passion and achieving something with that. Runs a very successful, I will say, yoga studio in Melbourne, of which there are a lot of yoga studios. And I'd say it's a difficult market is the one I would say, particularly surviving COVID. And so I thought that Masha's story might be an interesting one to take on some of these different modalities of addressing business at whatever level it is that you do, whether it's ecological or just straight business, because of some of the attitudes that she uses to actually look at business and life itself. So I'm going to start by talking about Russia in particular, because she recently took her young children in the middle of the war zone back into Russia, which I thought was wild for the recent break, the school holiday break. So welcome, Masha. How did I go with summing up some of your life story there?
Well, everyone's got a life story, and I feel honored to kind of hear your take on my life story. So thank you for all your kind words. And um, where do we begin? Where do we begin? Do we begin from when I came to Australia, or did you want to talk about my recent trip to Russia a couple of months ago?
Look, we could do a little bit of both. Why did you come from Russia to Australia? And then obviously why you wanted to go back is because you've got family there. So tell me a little bit about how that occurred.
Yeah, definitely. So I was born in Russia, in the middle of nowhere, very close to Siberia in this mountains called the Ural Mountains. And it was a very dark and grey upbringing in terms of my city was built for a metal factory where the whole city produced metal for railways and tanks. So can you imagine the pollution and like the whole energy of the city? So my mother, bless her, saw a potential of me escaping at the age of 17. So at the age of 17, she literally packed my bags and sent me out to Melbourne, Australia, probably the furthest point away from Siberia, so I can have a better future. So I
So you're
came
by
here,
yourself?
yeah, by myself. I had my sister with me, but we didn't stay in the same city for very long. So imagine coming here with zero English, zero money, and no friends, no family, and trying to work it out. So from a girl, I became a woman within 6 months because I had to work out how to earn money, how to get from A to B, and how not to be shy to express what I want to get because my English was so poor. So it was a lot of children books reading. It's a lot of work with hands without language. I got a job as a fishmonger. I don't know how they got me a job. I think I smiled a lot. But slowly, painfully, I started to love Australia. And it's been 25 years and I call Australia home now. But because of the political situation in Russia, it's been a little bit tricky to get to, and COVID and travel restrictions around the world. So after 17 years of not being in Russia, I decided to take my young family to Russia. I've got two young kids, 7 and 5, and my partner that's never been to Russia before. He's actually German. You know, a Russian marrying a German and then the German going to Russia to visit where I'm from. It was a really big move. It was a little bit scary. It was a little bit uncertain. But I feel like we need to try hard things. I think we need to try things that scare us because I think we'll come out as better people in general.
So what was it like when you turned up to Russia? How did the Russians treat you? I mean, you are Russian by birth, so did they welcome you? Did they think, are you here to be a spy? And what was their viewpoint?
All of the above, Samantha. Like seeing Russia as a visitor now is really interesting because Russians are paralyzed with fear. We have been so scared. The Russians have been so scared for so many years since the Second World War that there is very little conversation. Everyone is nervous to say anything they think about political opinion.
Mm.
At the start, I'm quite vocal and I express my opinion quite loud. And I started to ask people, what do you think of Mr. President or the other side that they're fighting with? And everyone would lower their voices and they would whisper and they would say, we prefer not to talk about. At the start, I was a little bit taken by it because, you know, I'm in the yoga field. I'm in a field where everyone expresses how they feel and there is very little filter. So it took me a while to respect their space. And I'm like, who am I to come in and ask them really deep questions? And they've been fighting and in poverty and fear for so many years. So it took me a few days to settle. And Russians were really kind and welcoming. And it was really interesting to be a tourist there because they haven't seen foreigners for years now. So even to pull out an Australian passport, everyone would gather and they will watch the passport. They'll flick the pages because there's no foreigners allowed. So
Mm.
for us to pull out 4 blue passports, that alone was really interesting for people.
What colour are
Yeah.
theirs?
Pardon?
Well, theirs red, are they?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting to see, to watch, to witness, to not judge, you know, because we're quick at jumping into conclusions, and I did many times, and I'm like, hold on a second, just be in their shoes for a while. So it was really humbling experience. And at the end of the day, we didn't want to come back because it was really fun. People were open. People wanted to know. People were curious. People thought we drove to Russia because they have no concept of where Australia is on the map.
Drove?
Like, can you imagine? And the first time someone said, oh, so did you drive here? And just look at them going, what? Again and again and again. I'm like, no, it's a 24-hour flight. But they just have no concept of where Australia is. So it's so foreign for them. So it was really...
That's as bad as the Americans who would say that to me. They thought they'd say Australia and they'd say New Zealand. I'm like, it's this little island, New Zealand. We're really big. We're as big as America. It's fascinating, isn't it? That lack of geographical awareness. Do they just not study the geography of the planet? I mean, what is the reason for them not understanding that?
I don't know. I've never asked, but Russia, territory-wise, is the biggest country in the world.
Yeah.
And it's so different from west to east. So they get a little bit stuck. And don't forget there is the television is not allowing American propaganda. So all the television is in Russian. So they don't even have American movies.
Nothing.
The music is very Russian. A little bit of Taylor Swift and all that, but mainly it's Russian. So they're brainwashing people for years to be very patriotic, and it's working because they're very patriotic, but they don't know anything outside because they don't have access to it. So even when we were there, they have cancelled, I guess, or suspended all WhatsApp communication. So there is no Facebook, there is no Instagram, there is no WhatsApp communication. So like in China there is no Facebook, and it was the same happening there.
No, they've got their own version of it over there. Yeah, they're controlling the communication lines. So, and I remember you said at one point you had the KGB turn up to the doorstep. What was
Can
that
you
like?
imagine? Can you imagine? We were driving in the car. That story like really needs a whole book or a chapter. I'll cut it short. We had to go back to the hotel that we were staying, and there was a guy, like a serious guy, standing there waiting for us, and he had a ton of questions, mainly for me, and he was from KGB, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I started to think, what have I done wrong in my life? Am I going to get locked up? B, I had my kids on either side going, there's no chance of separating me because you read book, you hear so many stories. I'm like, my kids are not leaving me. I will die with them. So I'm like sitting there with my kids in both arms. I know Bjorn, my partner, is strong, so he's sitting right next to me. And they just started to drill questions and questions of what I do in Australia, how I got there, how I earn money, what's the name of the business, and I try to give very vague answers so that I don't come after businesses here.
Mm,
You know what I mean? I didn't want to be paranoid, but at the same time going, if I give too much information, what can they do?
mm.
And in the end, it was like a half an hour conversations. And I wasn't sure if he was on my side or against me. So I was like, I had this guard going, what do you want from me? And then in the end, extends his hand and he goes, "Oh, I'm really on your side. I'm really trying to make sure that your trip is safe." I'm like, somehow I didn't believe him. Like he wanted. My dad was there. He was asking my dad all these questions, and he just wanted to make sure that we were safe. I'm like, does this happen often? He goes, "Well, you understand, we don't see foreigners here often." And I'm like, no, I don't understand. Why are you getting information from me? What have I done? I just want to, that moment I wanted to get out. I'm like, I just want to leave the country safely. We left. Nothing happened. He called a few times. I'm like, God damn, he's got my number now. So I'm like, I started to go, okay, so he can filter what I'm looking through on my phone. So I've deleted all social media for the time we were there. Just you never know. Just never know.
But it was worth the trip to go and see your family.
Yeah. Yeah. My family never met my kids, so it was really nice to introduce my family to where I'm from. The roots, I think it's important, even though we migrate and live in different countries.
So were
Yeah.
you up in the village that you came from, up on the right up there? Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
thought you said you were near the water somewhere. So
We did go to Sochi, which is on the border with Ukraine. That was interesting as well. But I'm right in the middle of the country.
so there was no you didn't actually see any of the war going on around you.
In Sochi, we did. In Sochi, we saw sirens. We heard sirens. There was drone attacks and there was explosions of nuclear stations, I guess, smoke and fire. And you just look around and go, what do you do? What do you do? Do you sit at home or the hotel room and be scared, or you leave a little? And we walked out and everyone was living as normal. So it's
They
like,
were just living with the war going on around them
it's been since
for years.
2014.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
started 2014, 11 years ago.
Oh, it's 11
Yeah.
years that's been going on.
So it's longer than people think.
Wow. No, I did not know that.
Mm.
I had this diagnostic machine out of Ukraine. I was going to Kiev and the war had broken out. And I ended up going to Latvia instead to have my training on Skype, which was almost impossible. But at least it was in the same time zone. But I had been trying to go in, but that was, I think, maybe 2014 when the war broken out. And I remember going, there's a war? I like, but they were saying, oh, you might not be able to get out and, blah, blah, blah. So I wasn't going to go into a war zone. So that's why I was so curious that you were going to go in.
Well, at the end of the day, I really think I'm not a politician and I don't want to take sides because I think deep down everyone is good on a deeper level. But it's really a war of money and power. No one
Mm.
wants to kill anyone, I truly believe. It just happens when push-pull becomes too overwhelming and they create a really big fuss on the media. When you're there, I felt safe. I was walking around to my yoga classes at 6 o'clock in the morning and it was safe on the street.
Mm. Fascinating. Look, it's worth having those external viewpoints, I think, because I think we can get wrapped up in the geopolitical narrative going on rather than seeing what's really happening. And people were obviously still having to make a livelihood, run businesses, feed their children, get access to food and medical and all the other things. And so people learn to adapt to whatever's going on, don't they, for survival?
Definitely. And maybe I'm wrong, but I still believe that there is still communism happening within Russia. Everyone is very the same. If you earn too much, the government will take it off you, or you will leave the country. If you don't earn enough, the villages will help you. I think the communism is really making everyone the same, and I don't know if it's good or bad.
It's
I
just
felt,
different.
yeah, it's different in Australia. If you work hard, you can earn money, and the government will tax you heavily, but you can still make a living without showing it off. I don't know how to put it, but in Russia, what I've experienced, it's one level for all.
Mm, mm. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I suppose it comes down to are the people happy? So you said they're living in fear. I'd heard a story that there were billboards around advertising sending your child to the front, and people were. Is that you that told me that story?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
there are billboards that, clearly state of how much you get paid as a soldier, and if you die, how much money your family gets. And I was talking about brainwashing. I don't want to say, I don't want to paint a negative picture towards Russia because it's such a powerful, rich country with full of history and devotion and patriotism. But that triggered me because I feel like the brainwashing stops mothers from their internal instincts where they
Mm.
send their sons to the front line. And if something happens to the son, the family gets money.
And they obviously had that happen. And how were they about it?
Then again, that's not to ask questions, and many people would not answer.
Mm.
I had that a lot, and I
Mm.
kind of stopped asking or stopped taking sides. No one
Mm.
asks if I'm for or against the war, am I for or against the president. But it goes deep where people are scared to say what they think because KGB might be knocking on their door.
Mm.
You're saying, are they happy? I don't know. Are we happy? Are we happy in Australia?
Well, I can answer that question.
Love me.
I think Australians are, uh, by and large, not happy. Having just been in Dubai, and I didn't really have anything to do there, so I spent a lot of time just talking to anybody that would talk to me. People that were taxi drivers and beauticians, anything, anybody at all, anywhere. I would talk to them and ask them what was it like, because I was looking at moving there. So, and I found, without exception, people were so happy to live there. And I said, but don't you miss home? And like, I had one taxi driver who'd been living there 20 years, raised 3 children in India. And I said, but you see them once a year. And he said, yeah, but that's all right. And I was like, and you're happy? Yes, no, because I've been able to raise my children and pay for them. And, like, life is good. Like, because you've got to remember it's compared to what you were in. And so I had just one story after another of how different it was to work in a country where there was no tax, personal tax, and to earn the money. And they had good medical, they had transport if they were working for a hotel, they had, like, everything was looked after. And there was, I think you may have been aware, there was flooding going on at one point, and it was fixed within weeks. Like, not just that bit was done, but anything to prevent further flooding was being addressed and done, like it was done. Unlike here, we'd be 10 years still thinking about it, trying to get it through a committee. And I think the average person here, when you talk to them, is not happy. All they do is complain about something. They complain about taxes. They complain about how hard it is to get along. I mean, farmers are talking about walking off the land. Suicide is 2 a day. 2 a day. That's the highest in the world. It's 2 a day in India and 2 a day in, I think, another big country. Maybe it's Russia. But compared to the number of people, there's only 26 million here. Percentage-wise, that's just massive. And that's it's a lot. I think a lot of it's isolation, because people in Australia have to operate very on their own here. We're an individualistic country. We don't come together as a group. We don't handle problems as a group. We like to whinge about everybody, but not actually do anything. Like, that seems to be our cultural yoke. And so I would say no, they're not happy. Whereas I don't know from talking to you whether the Russians were happy, but I wanted to use it more as a segue into my feeling about all of this, which is how all of that informs you when you take into your life what you're doing in work to earn money and have a living. And I particularly was interested in you, which we were talking about before we came online a bit, because I have been going to yoga in different studios because I look for the teachers. And all of them have been telling me how hard it is to run a business because there's so much competition and the price is high. Like by the time like it's for a drop in class is like $30 for most classes. And if you want to do a regular practice of 3, 4, 5 classes a week, you might get it down to $20 with a thing, but even $20 a day, that's still maybe $40, $80, $100 a week. That's a lot out of a person's money. So how many people can afford to do that and value it over other things for their health, for their well-being, their sanity? I had observed a phenomenal number of people coming in that were highly anxious. And, I call this strategies in business for a world in flux because I feel there is so much unknown for people, whereas life was very planned out before. You went to school, the boy got a job, you had family, the children were born and the mother raised them at home. There were these very archetypal things. Now, all that's out the window. And I've certainly been talking to men quite a lot. And the male viewpoint was, well, I used to know what to do. What do we do now? Women can do everything. What's our role? So they're either angry about it, upset. I mean, they're trying to do the best thing. They're trying to be good men. But what is that for them? There's no guidebook been put out for them. I feel that's been problematic. And women in Australia have been so aggressively militant about, their rights, which I think had to happen for the shift to occur. But now there seems to be a need for something to come back. And that was one of the things that I was feeling in observing you, was that you had really embraced this feminine in a way that none of the other women leaders of yoga rooms I had seen able to maintain that. They were either being so girly, they were a bit like wishy-washy, or they were being so masculine that they hadn't embraced that a balance of that masculine feminine energy, one that holds space, which makes you feel safe to come into the environment, that you will be looked after and protected and respected and your things won't be stolen. And like, it's an energetic field that actually looks after everybody in the group. And then more importantly was this phenomenal number of heterosexual men. I have never seen so many heterosexual men in yoga classes. Like, sure, you see like the dancing community, which I've been in for many years, you see the homosexual men where they feel comfortable to be around that feminine energy, but they're men being men. Like, they're not being feminine men, they're being masculine men. And you seem to be able to manage both the men and the women in the room and lead them in some way on an energetic field. And that's kind of the thing I was interested to talk about. And how was your perception of it? And what did you see? And do you go to the other yoga schools at all? Have you looked at them?
Um, Earlier you mentioned a word yoke, and yoga is translated in many ways, and one of them is a union, and one of them is to yoke, is to come together. That's why that comment about, are we happy here? I think my industry will stick around for a few more years, because I was a bit nervous going with AI and technology. Do people want to still connect? And especially after COVID, where there was fear and people didn't want to be touched or adjusted in the practice. So I've gone through my own um, questioning. Why do I do what I do for many, many years now? My only rule is to welcome everyone in with an open arm, where you come in and I don't ask many questions outside of the yoga practice. Then when guest practitioners start to move, I normally don't stare at one person. I normally look at the floor, because I think from the floor you can feel the energy. And if I'm cueing a sequence and someone is out, I have to wait for that person in my voice, in my breath, and then we come together and we yoke together. Really, at the end of the day, in yoga, it's a dance between the masculine and the feminine. In Sanskrit, it's Ida and Pingala, and they're crisscross right in the middle of your spine. You might have heard this term Shushumna, Shushumna Nadi, or the Kundalini that rises up the spine. You can use fancy terminologies like in Sanskrit, or you can use another modality, but at the end of the day, we all have the masculine and the feminine. When men come in and they're very intimidated, it's an intimidating place to be because there's a lot happens within an hour. And if you're new to it, you look around and you see people doing some amazing things with their body. It's intimidating, but the fact that you stay, you don't have the permission to get up and leave, I think teaches everyone this humility, this sense of I can be better, men or women, and there's something to be inspired by. I don't go out to many classes anymore. I used to, but now I go in and I question everything. It makes me angry and my practice becomes really confusing for me in my head because I question the teacher and I go, why do we do this transition? Why did you say this in this position? Because every hold in yoga, every sequence is very intelligent. Yoga's been around for thousands of years and yogi has been studying it from India to other different countries. And like we were talking before we went on air, it's been around for so long. And all of a sudden there was a trend. Everyone started walking down the street in Lululemon gear with a little yoga mat underneath the armpit. And I'm like, okay, there's something in it. Men want to be with women that look good in general. Women get inspired by someone looking good in the body, or that it's not about even looking good. It's about that twinkle in the eye when you talk to someone and they really listen. Because we're very good at asking the question. The person starts to answer the question and then we interrupt them and we steal their story and we tell ours. We're asking the question so we can reply to the same question. But I think yogis, if they're really embodied, they listen, they don't interfere. And I think that's why men in my studio feel seen. Even though there is maybe little physical touch or maybe there are some postures that they can't do, they still feel acknowledged. Like you said, men have gone through a big shift in the last 5-10 years and I feel for them. Here there is no judgment. You come in, you do what you need to do. If you're open to talk, I'm here to listen. But at the end of the day, you can come in, come out, and I know that you walk down that street feeling better.
Hmm. And as a business, how do you feel that's gone? Because you had to survive COVID and close down and still run. I suppose the overheads of that studio you're in South Yarra, because the land is expensive in that area, would be high. How was that for you? Did you run online classes? I hadn't started with you at that point.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I had Happy Melon over COVID. Happy Melon is the first studio that I opened 2015.
Oh, you opened that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2015. And then somewhere in the middle, I had my kids, Andre and Sophia. I had Sophia 2020, and I had a break. So I didn't teach it. I didn't want to be that mother that sits in front of a class and breastfeeds a child. I wanted to be either fully with the child or fully with my practitioners because there is a lot of trust that people put into your hands. And
Mm.
I still do. I want to be fully present. So when my kids came to my life, I wanted to be fully with my kids. So I had a little bit of a break. And then,
During COVID,
yeah.
fortuitously.
Yeah.
Life just happened the right way for you.
Then I kind of had a break from Happy Melon, and then Happy Melon and I, we separated with kindness and love for each other. And then 2022, at the time I had a dog, and we walked the dog down Wilson Street in South Yarra, and we saw this beautiful art gallery, Aboriginal art gallery on Wilson Street, and a big sign for lease. I looked in, I got scared because I knew I have to open again. And we opened within, and I was scared that no one will come because it was still after COVID. And people, A, didn't want to sweat, B, didn't want to be touched. C, I found over COVID, I don't really like to talk about the C word very much because it feels like so in the past, but I've noticed a change in yoga, meditation versus Pilates. Feel like everyone went to Pilates, and I was asking my close friends why, and most of them said because I didn't want to feel, because
Mm.
there was already so much fear and unknown. Yoga teachers are good at pushing buttons. You know, you cry in the pigeon, or you get emotional release in a headstand or a forward fold. Pilates doesn't ask you this. Pilates is very good and does amazing things for the body, but it doesn't push the buttons. Yoga does. And everyone, most people, got very scared of what they see because you spend a lot of time by yourself at home or tight community and family, especially in Melbourne. It's different around the world. And everyone kind of paused yoga. Meditation was way too confronting, and everyone went to Pilates. And in time I had my kids, I'm like, okay, I need to understand this Pilates more, even though we offered it at Happy Melon, I didn't teach it. So I went, right, I'm going to do my course and I'm going to study it so I understand it more. And when I was doing my course to become a teacher, I realized that it's very mechanical and you become very strong in the body. I've got nothing against Pilates, but it doesn't push the buttons. It doesn't release anything. Makes you
Now,
strong.
it's interesting to me to hear you say that because you teach yoga like a yoga teacher. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what's interesting.
and with Happy Melon, we really wanted to do both, and we thought it will crisscross and cross over. Yogis will do Pilates, Pilates people will do yoga.
Oh,
When we opened, I wanted to keep it very simple. Only one offering, 3 levels. And I think that's why, touch wood, I don't want to jinx anything, but it works. People are not confused. They roughly know what they're coming for.
how you operated a business through it. You came into it, you got it going. And why did people come to you? How did you get people to come into your business? And how did you continue to manifest that? Did you do that, do you think, through just goodwill? Why do you think people came to the studio?
You know, Samantha, I started teaching when I was really young, and I really haven't done much else in between. So it's years of experience and years of mistakes, learning from saying something that doesn't resonate, or you say something and people don't action it. I'll never forget, I went and ran a retreat somewhere overseas, and I had this big spiel and welcoming circle, and I was talking nonstop because I was really excited. And then after about half an hour of talking, I said to everyone, all right, let's move. And we got into, say, first child's pose or down dog, if you're familiar with yoga. And I started to go right leg up, and I noticed half of the crew did not lift their leg up, and go right leg up, and still not happening. And I realized that all of the people that were listening, they were foreigners and English was their second language, and they don't understand anything that I'm saying. And I'm like, here you go, back to school. Even after years and years of teaching, I'm still going, oh, humbled by this experience where it's not just the language. It's not what poses you do. It almost doesn't matter, but it's how you let people be themselves. I know it sounds a little bit wishy-washy, but you come in and there's almost like non-judgement. You come in and there is people coming from all walks of life from dentists to prostitutes to bankers to really high-end CEOs, and just to see them humbly surrender, if that's a saying, but they just surrender and they trust. And I think the background of being Russian and being quite disciplined throughout my life, people trust you a little bit different. If you start to stand in your feet and stand in your power, and like I was saying at the start of this recording, when I watch the group, and most of the time there's a few bodies, different shapes, different DNA. I look on the floor. I don't look at Samantha as a body. I don't look at Masha as a body. I look at the floor. And when we start to dance together in this dance of body, breath, and that inner stillness, something happens. There's some kind of a trust and surrender happens. And the reason I think there is a lot of men, because it's strong posture, a strong practice. It's strong. It's not easy. It's challenging for everybody. And the reason there is a lot of women, because women want to be challenged. Like you were saying, women have come into their power and now they want to embrace it. And I feel like this yoga style is so enticing for people. And my job is not to bastardize it. This yoga became really commercial. When I started with my career, there was a yoga studio on Chapel Street. I'm not going to name names because it was a wonderful community. And it was a queue out of the door, and it was a new style, and everyone wanted to be a part of it. And then it changed, and that studio closed down, and there's been a lot of political misconduct in the yoga community, like everywhere else. But the yoga as a yoke, as a union, as a practice still remains. And it's different to the way your mother was practicing, the way my teacher was learning from his guru. But something in it, the rawness and the postures are still there, and they still penetrate your body, your life on the level that you didn't even know exist. Some people come in to stretch their hamstrings. I have boys going, I can't touch my toes. Like, welcome. I have people going, I'm suicidal, I'm just about to finish my life. I go, welcome. And all of this together, somehow we support each other, even without saying anything. Even without, hey, Samantha, how are you? How's your health? You don't need to do it. It's just this, some kind of a understanding that everyone lands on the mat for a reason. Let's just honor this space and time.
And so do you think that that union is because people are drawn to that, that's what's commercially making it work for you? That despite the choice of different yoga places you can go to, the cost, et cetera, because your classes are very full. Sometimes there's barely room for a mat. It's kind of extraordinary. 40, 50 people in the room. And other times there's 20. And so it definitely has to be something people are willing to put their money and their time aside for, that they're drawn to in your classes.
There's there's often a battle in my head for the financial aspect of my business. Because when we opened Happy Melon, we wanted to demystify meditation, and we made our intro offer. Intro offer is 2 weeks unlimited yoga for free. And we held to our word, and we stuck for a year. People don't value free. People take it or leave it and forget about it. They sign up. So it got us, because we were a new business, it got us a lot of people on the books. But people that used the free 2-week trial was 50%. As soon as we started to put a little bit of money on meditation, so my thing was to make meditation free, because meditation should be practiced and taught for free. And we did that after we closed off the free intro offer. No one came. The room was empty, and I remember sitting there waiting for people to come. No one came. And as soon as we put a little value on it, people came. $5, $15. At the time, it was $15. People value service differently. So that's why, pardon?
And skin in the game. They've got to have skin in the game.
Correct.
We've seen
That's why
this
people,
community does donation on the roof, and they've got hundreds of people at it.
yeah, and the person that is running it is making a living out of it. It's amazing. It's a win-win. Donation-based practices are fantastic. But for me, I need stability as a business. I need to pay rent. I need to pay my teachers before anyone else. I need to look after my my people. I don't call them staff. So I need stability. I can't do donations. It's too unstable.
Oh, I don't think she could do it either. I don't quite know how she survived, because sometimes she's got nobody there and she still pays the venue. So she has to, but she doesn't have an ongoing, venue, and she's just her. So she doesn't have to have those salary costs or the overheads of a venue. She just pays on the day.
Exactly. And within, I wanted to keep it quite simple. I wanted to offer one product. There's a wonderful company called Who Gives a Crap. I think it's a toilet company. And they do one product well. They don't do anything else but toilet paper, and their statement is clear and their why is clear. One product, do it well. It's the same. One product, only 3 levels. That's it. Because the amount of time people come to my door and knock on the door saying, I'm a Kundalini teacher. can I teach here? Or I'm a Pilates teacher, I want to run a workshop at your studio. I'm a Pilates studio, I want to run a Pilates event at your place. I've got a book launch and I'd like to write a book in the studio. And they keep saying no with love and compassion. I'm going, no, this is one service and I don't want to confuse people. If there's a Pilates class, everyone going, when is a Pilates coming onto the timetable? So it's difficult to say no to people when they come and knocking on the door offering their wonderful service. But I'm just trying to stay disciplined. That's my yoga and stick to one style. And I think that's why within Touchwood has had followers and people come back and get a lot of benefits from it.
I do find that fascinating. And I would say, again, just to touch on the energetic thing, that my observation is that, well, I know from my family business as well, and many business, you walk in the door, whatever you're experiencing on the floor is what the owners are creating energetically. If they don't care, it'll be there at the most common waiter who's been hired. And if they care passionately, like my parents used to eat at our restaurants every week, at least 2 or 3 of the restaurants in one night we do rounds, and we'd move them around, and then we knew all the staff's names, even though it's 500 staff. We knew, what was happening. And my parents took real interest, and that showed in every person that came on, everybody cared. So it's very much a reflection, I feel, energetically. And they say that if something that is created by people will persist after them not being there anymore. Like, look at Steve Jobs created Apple. And it's, yes, there's been other managers and other creators, and you could say it's not as good or whatever, but the business is still persisting past his life form. And that is the energy, the empathetic, the initiating energy of the person that creates something. They put it into perpetuity. It actually continues on into the universe. And you can set it up so it'll keep doing that just by your attention. So you're putting a very strong train track down on the ground to say,
Definitely.
let's
And
keep it going in this way.
sorry to interrupt, but I guess yoga teachers sometimes don't get enough credit. And I've got my yoga teacher friends back because as a yoga teacher, you wear so many hats. And I'm sure it's the same with the hospitality industry, like you were saying about your family. But with the yoga teachers, 1 minute you're ordering toilet paper. Next minute, someone comes in and they cry, I really needed this session. Next minute, there's a payment that didn't come through. So you try to call the bank and chase the payment. And all of it happens within an hour. And sometimes the expectations of the yoga teachers are quite high. Someone came to me, I think at the start of the week, and they had a really deep physical problem, and they tried to ask me about questions of postures to do to fix it. And I just said to them, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Please go and see someone that knows the body a lot deeper than me. I'm here to open the door, but I need you to understand that I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to fix you. And I said it with more compassion than this, but it's like from the doctor to the psychologist to a business person, sometimes it gets exhausting.
I'm going to say, from my observation, just doing the exercises and being able to talk in those exercises absolutely, hands down, amazes me.
For sure, but I'm sure you used to look at your parents and how they used to just roll around the floor like it was nothing.
Just saying,
I loved it.
from a customer's point of view.
For sure, and like you said, because you love it and you're in the industry that people feel different. I wouldn't want to do anything else. And I'm 41 at the moment, and I hope I'll do it for another 40 years because this job is so rewarding, even though you're so tired. And then you just see that person walking down the street with a little bit of a, step and a dance in the body. I'm like, okay, one person at the time. It's really rewarding. It's like nothing else. And I truly believe how this ripple effect continues beyond the 4 rooms of the yoga shala. For example, there is a guy that doesn't do yoga. He's really into fitness and health. And he goes, Masha, show me a yoga pose. And I showed him a posture called Bird of Paradise. It's a really cute posture. If you've done it before, you know how it looks like. And he tried it and he was really good at it. Long story short, he went traveling to Vietnam, decided to do Bird of Paradise on the top of a mountain and take a photo to send it to me, going, Masha, look what I'm doing. And he goes, after he put the camera down and sent the photo to me, he goes, everyone around him was clapping. Everyone wanted to know what the posture is. And he goes, come do yoga. What's yoga? And he doesn't even do yoga. But the way he was telling me about this little experience, my little gesture of, hey, try this posture, it's really fun. You don't even know which who it touches and the lives that it changes. This person on the mountain doing this a little bit of a silly posture, not silly, strong, but a little bit of a funny name, Bird of Paradise, changed someone's life just because go, oh, he looks really strong and he's alive. You know, we so many people leave their life half asleep, not aware, not alert, not awake. They wake up, they do their robot movements, box tickers. They come in and it's just nothing. You look at them, they don't look at you. You ask them a question, they talk about themselves without asking anything from you. I see those people and I'm like, I just wish you were on the path, and you will get to the path. And the path is just maybe doing gentle meditation, a gentle stretching of the hamstrings and the shoulders so you can open your heart one day. That continues after you leave the class. And I truly believe if you do a good yoga, you go and you're nicer to people. You want to help. You order a coffee and you look at the person that's making you a coffee rather than on the phone, walk out. I don't know.
As a tribute to you, I would say, having also been to those yoga classes and observed the community afterwards, your community is always open to talking and being generous and happy, and very expansive. And other classes I've been to, nobody ever speaks. I think I went to the one that you're talking about up in Channel Street, and I loved the class. I loved the music. I loved the room. I loved everything about it, but nobody would ever talk. I thought, oh, I must meet people here. This will be interesting. Not one person spoke. They were competitive to be silent. I mean, that was a long time I went to that class. Nobody spoke. And I thought, that is so bizarre. And other classes is the same. Whereas this class, people talk to each other. They're keen to talk to each other. They're helpful with each other. Some go and have coffees down the road together. You can join in or not. People will introduce you to each other. It's extraordinary how different it is. It's like the people are happy in themselves. And I think that's also part of what I'm saying is this energetic thing coming from you is with your community, your teachers, whatever, and people are either going to be drawn to it or not. And that comes back to this energetic field about what people are drawn to and whether somebody is ready to take a next step in their own evolution to find whatever they're needing in their lives. So I think it's been certainly an interesting journey for me, and I'm very pleased you came on the show because I feel people maybe don't think about yoga as a business, and it's very much a business. There's a lot of overheads. There's a lot of moving parts, and and all those psychological things you've got with people, which people don't have in other businesses at all. It's just a product, do an exchange, financials, nothing else. But you guys, you're always present. And it's not just you, all your teachers are the same. They're always standing at the door, willing to talk about everything, incredibly generous, affectionate, touching people. And I think that human touch is so needed in life in just a nice way, not like sexual, not, I don't know, not that hippie thing where we've all to be lovey-dovey. It's just human interaction. And I feel it's very, for me, certainly, astounded by how different it is in your class and your community through all the different teachers. It doesn't seem to matter which teacher you go with, all the community are like that. And some of them are like James, kind of manic, how they do. Must do 50 classes a week. That guy is wild. But you've got that extreme to the person that's completely inside themselves. And I've looked at a lot of those people in other classes, and that terror inside them is somehow relaxes in your class.
Mm.
They may not still be up to talking to you, but they're breathing in front of you. There's more breath inside them. And it could also be you literally physically do more breathing work than other classes you do at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, it's interesting. At the start, there was a complaint that came back to me where uh, a, a guest complained that people talk too loud before the class, and she suggested to have a little sign on the wall going, "Please, no talking before the class." And with lots of love and respect, I said it's not going to happen. It's not the community. It's not the studio for it. And like I was saying before, I don't want to change the system. I think there is a lot of depth in silence. And, I do Vipassana meditation retreats, and the silence is really important. And the classical yoga is always there. It's like a pathway to different styles. So I don't want to break it, and I don't want to change it. But also the community brings the energy. It's not just me trying to welcome everyone in. It's all of those people that you just name, including you. Just your energy, your aura, your energy. What's the word? Like your welcome um, gaze changes the way people walk in. You personally, I don't need to say anything, but just to gaze eye to eye, because I can sit down, I can relax. I don't need to talk. Some people come in and don't talk, but those that talk, they create this. It's okay. You are held. That's what I feel. Mm.
Lovely. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you. I know you have a date with your child to pick them up, so I won't hold you anymore. But it's been wonderful having you on the show. And I think you contribute a tremendous amount, not only to the community of very able-minded and bodied people in your community, but also to this discussion, which is really about people making their way through life in a business sense, particularly in this community and communities all over the world. And hopefully some people can take something from what you've discussed today into their own lives and world and attitude, and see if it helps them in their businesses too. So
It's been an honor. It's been an honor, and thank you for inviting me. And I hope you keep spreading your passion across the planet. Thank you, Samantha.
Sunny,
Mhm.
bye. Thanks for listening to Integration, where we explore the strategies that connect heart, land, and capital. If today's episode sparks something in you, share it forward. Until next time, stay curious and keep building the world you believe in.